Hey cuties, I'm Miles Sexton, a content creator, activist, and loud and proud disruptor of the norm. On Our Private Bits, we talk about the things and people that don't get talked about enough, or at all. Trust me, as a sober, HIV-positive, non-binary person, I would know. Join me as I chat with people in my life and from around the world whose stories deserve to be heard. Maybe you'll learn something new, and you will definitely LOL. Our Private Bits is also part of the Acast Curator Network. All right, cuties. Today on Our Private Bits, we have supermodel Lauren Chan joining us. Lauren is an entrepreneur, size-inclusive advocate, and has worked with publications like Vogue, New York Times, Glamour, Women's Wear Daily, and Sports Illustrated, just to name a few. Want to say hi, Lauren?
Hi, you were made for this. I am just sitting here grinning my face off because of the excitement with which you said that. I was like, where is she? I want to meet her.
I mean, how can I not be excited? I feel like from the moment that I met you, you know, like you have a perception of someone like online, but then you like meet them. And I just like, I feel like now there is like this little piece of my heart that like only belongs to you. You are just like such a gem of a human and just have the most kindest energy. And I don't know, I just have so much respect for you.
Likewise.
So thank you.
The mutuality, if that's a word, of that sentiment is probably why we get along so well. Like, I'm just, I'm constantly floored by you and impressed and appreciative and learning something and inspired and all the things. You know this.
Well, I appreciate it so much. How did because I feel like, how did we first get connected?
I think just online in our communities.
So. Okay. That's what I thought too. But I was like, did I forget like meeting you at an event or something? I was like, ooh.
No, I think what's happened is that we finally were together at an event,
yes.
and I was like, there they are. Okay, all right, go say hi. That kind of thing. Because we had already kind of been online friends, and I had, of course, been a fan before that. I think we feel like we've known each other in the flesh for longer than we actually have.
Totally. I feel like it's still like, we're still pretty new, you know, we're still dating at this point, but like, but it's true. Like, so we got to walk like this awesome fashion show for the CAF Awards, like during TIFF at the Royal York. And like, it was so cool.
Yeah, maybe it was there. Was it that late that we met each other in
That was person? The first time I think I again, maybe I'm forgetting, but like, I feel like that was the first time that I actually saw you in person.
It probably was because you had such a striking look. It probably added to my starstruckness.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, honestly.
I definitely felt like very naked in an event like that. Like it was interesting because it's like, you know, like I've been modeling since I was like 16 years old. And I don't normally get nervous, but like going into that fashion show, being held at like the Royal York, it being associated at CAF Awards, I don't know why. I was so in my head and like so nervous. I barely remember anything of that night because I felt like it wasn't a place for me that like I would normally be accepted in, especially to like showcase my queerness on such a like level where it was like borderline drag. I felt, you know, like kind of like in an opening that fashion show, you know? So it was like, I had a lot of like my saboteur kind of like coming to the surface of like not feeling worthy enough to be there. I don't know. That was like my journey. And I was like trying to be so present to like get to know you too. But I was like so in my fucking head. And then Jeannie Becker was like with us too. And I'm like, this is too much.
I was like, I could feel that now that I'm hearing you explain it all these months later. And I was just about to say, and the fact that Jeannie was there, I too was like, whoa, this is the moment.
Totally. And I just like, I don't know. I wanted to like show up in such a way, I feel like for everyone that like no one would be able to say anything. And I feel like that was like to my detriment because I wasn't actually
You mean something negative?
Yeah, like I was worried that people were going to say negative things about me in that show and like the demographic of people that was going to be there. And like, I don't know, it really like, it worked against me. And I'm really like in looking back and reflecting on it, I really just, I should have like let my wise self show up. I don't know. In that situation.
Now, and that's the thing, right? It's next time you have a situation like that, you'll think of that particular instance.
Totally.
It's like, I can relate to that through my experience with Sports Illustrated.
Yes.
Because it feels like a space where maybe we weren't the first people on the invite list a decade ago.
Yes.
Right? And so the first time I was really nervous. And if I go back, you know, it'll be that I remember that feeling. I remember getting through it. I remember being proud after. I remember the incredible response
Mhm.
afterwards. And that will carry me through with the confidence.
Yes.
I don't know how much like, more impressively you can get than opening the show, but
No, I mean,
if you open, walk every look and close the show next time, then
yeah,
you'll be like, "Psh, done this before."
totally. But I think it's like, I think when people look at like the modeling industry and specifically, they're like, oh, that must be so easy. That must be like, it, they don't, I feel like they don't value like the journey that I think a
Yeah.
lot of people go through. And especially I think
Yeah.
for individuals like us who I think are trying to change, I think the industry and like be disruptors in our own sort of ways. And I think there is a lot of this sort of like psychological thing of just like maybe imposter syndrome of not feeling like we belong in these spaces.
It's so resonant to me that you went to imposter syndrome because I do think that modeling is easy
Yeah.
physically.
Yes.
I think it is extremely challenging mentally.
Exactly.
Whether we're talking about imposter syndrome,
Mhm.
comparison, body image, and all of how that turns into this cocktail that leads to your self
Yes.
worth. And
Totally.
it's been a struggle for me at times. I've really kind of hit a stride in the past few years, but before that, it was filled with friction.
Mhm.
And I really had to get to a space where mentally I was super well. Mentally, I knew myself. Mentally, I had reasons beyond ego to be in this
Yes.
business.
That's such a good point.
Yeah, it is a hard mind game.
It totally is because it's like it's when your physical appearance is like the selling feature, right? And then you have like a group of people that are critiquing it constantly. And like I guess it's just like, you're never going to be everyone's like perfect model.
Mhm.
So like then going through I guess like the journey of like not letting yourself like hold on to like what
Mhm.
everyone's saying, especially when you go to castings and stuff like that. Like it's so hard when I was like 23 auditioning for Paris Fashion Week and like people were calling me old. And I was like, "What? I'm like 23 years old."
Mm.
I don't know. Has it been like have you had like similar experiences to that?
Yeah, and I think like to even make your point bigger,
Yeah.
it's not just ego, it's also tied to the resources that you have,
Yes.
which means the life you can build, which and
Mhm.
for some people means the safety, of the community that you can afford to live in or what have you,
Totally.
you know? And so and by that I mean that for me, I can afford to be in New York City because of my work. So if my
Yes.
work is compromised and then I have to move to a suburb which are more Republican, then am
Mhm.
I worried about my well-being?
Yes.
And so I know that's kind of a tangent, but it really is deep.
Yeah.
And whether we as people who work in this industry realize that or not, I
Mhm.
feel like that depth contributes to how toxic it can be,
Yes.
how comparative and competitive it can be.
Mhm.
Um, and so it's important for me personally to really pull the camera back and realize all of that in order to process it and not let it affect me so
Exactly. I love
much.
that you brought that up. I think it is so important because it's like sometimes you can just feel like you're so in it, that you're
Mhm.
not able to pull back. And it's like I
Mhm.
think that is so important. So why did you get into modeling in the first place? Like now that we just said all of this,
Well, it's I
like
mean, it is a good segue because I don't love the act of modeling,
yeah.
and that was part of the challenge for me in
Mhm.
having done it for all these years, and through therapy, I got to a place where I now love the job as a whole
Yes.
because I get to go to work and meet new people, be creative, act like a kid, be
Mhm.
joyful, be silly, use my body, travel, see places. And it also affords me to be able to do the things I want to do, like start my inclusive fashion business or
Mhm.
be able to fly here and have a conversation with you.
Yes.
Um, that is all to say that I got into modeling not because I wanted to, as a means to an end. I
Mhm.
wanted to be a fashion editor in New York.
Really?
And yes, because I'm Canadian,
Yes.
I couldn't get a visa that basically approved that my writing skills were
Uh-huh.
so unique that the job had to be outsourced, not to an American, but to a Canadian. right?
Yes.
Impossible,
Yeah,
really impossible.
totally.
So I thought backwards into that logic and thought that if I was a model and my job skill was what I looked like, then
Mhm.
technically no one had
Yeah,
the
no one can
exact same
challenge
skill
that.
set as me. And it worked.
Yeah.
So I got signed by Ford Models almost 10 years ago and got my visa and went to New York. Of course, later, soon after, became a fashion writer and editor
Mhm.
and spent a lot of my career at Glamour magazine as the fashion news director with a focus on size inclusion and building a more diverse, accepting, accessible publication. And then I went on to start my own size inclusive fashion brand, Henning, which was acquired last year by Universal Standard, which is the most size
Wow.
inclusive fashion brand in the
Ugh,
world. We make sizes 00 to 40
that's
now.
so incredible.
Yeah, and now I'm kind of like doing this, which is great. So I'm very grateful to modeling because it got me all of these wonderful connections, communities,
Mhm.
accomplishments, experiences. But it's not something I sought out
No,
specifically.
it just kinda happened, I guess, in that way. But, like, I love because I think we're very similar in that sense, like, where agreed. Like, I think, like, I always joke, like, modeling was, like, my gateway drug to,
Mm.
like, the rest of this
Yeah.
industry, and, like, it sort of, like, allowed me to, like, get in,
Hmm.
and then, like, could kind of, like, access different areas of it that I also was interested
Hmm.
in. But, like, did you always start as, like, a body inclusivity model? Or, like,
Hmm.
was that a transition did that transition into that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was first signed to the plus size board at Ford
that's
Models in New York.
incredible.
Yeah.
Wow. So what did that feel like at the time? Because what year would have that been?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
It was 2012.
Okay.
And you know what? It was the first time I think that I felt not disappointed in or hateful towards my body.
Mhm.
Because you know what? I think it was the first time that I was the size that I am and someone said, "Great.
Yeah.
That's what we're looking
Ah.
for. Great. You're valuable. Great. We love you. Don't change a thing. Come on in."
Ooh.
I know it makes me
Yeah.
emotional.
And it's just like, just think it's so fucked up, like, that it took that long, for you to experience that. And, like,
That's why this work is so
it
important, even
is.
though it's fashion and it's often seen as frivolous because it's a
Yeah.
quote unquote women's
No.
industry. The work that we do in representation, if it can make us feel that way,
Yes.
it can make anyone watching feel that way.
Exactly.
And as we get more progressive as an industry, so too does the culture. And the
Totally.
people absorbing
Yes.
us, when they're teenagers, will grow to become a whole cohort of
Mhm.
folks
Yes.
who create amazing positive change
Exactly.
in this country.
I couldn't agree more. And, yeah, maybe it's difficult sometimes, but, I think things are changing, and it's like, I'm rewatching the OC right now.
Mm.
And, like, my memory of that show and now watching it, like, as an adult, it's just like, "Oh my god," like, I
I
can't get.
catch all of the things now.
But it's like, it's such a fat phobic
Yes,
show. It is like
yes,
violence is, like,
yes.
celebrated. Like, there's just so many things about it, but it's just like, I think
All of them,
it
Miles.
bottles up, I think, like, all the fucked up things that, like, is wrong with our society that was, like, so celebrated in the show, and I find it so hard to watch it now.
Isn't it fascinating how there's so many programs from that era?
Yeah.
Actually, when I was learning that I had mistakenly
Yes.
guessed my sexuality and thought I was straight, and when I started to consider that I might be gay, I read a
Yes.
book called Girls Can Kiss Now by Jill Gutowitz.
Oh.
And I believe she's a culture writer. And it has a whole chapter about how media from the early 2000s made it so that being a lesbian was not really a socially acceptable option.
Mhm.
And I say this now because of the way that you just described the OC. It was not so overt.
Yes.
It was in the subtleties, but it was in the subtleties of everything in culture.
All of it.
And it's improving, but the one thing that still is, I think, too accepted in culture and still like, yikes, is fat phobia.
Yeah. Oh,
Mhm.
totally. And it's like, yeah, I mean, like, I think you're such a you're such an onion of a person because there's so many levels of you, you know? Like,
The
it's like,
Shrek fan in me says thank
yeah,
you.
no, I always describe myself as an onion, but it's true though. Like, you know, like I think that like there's so many levels of your journey and like what you've been through and like what you're fighting towards, you know, and it is, and I think it's like when we look at where society's going, like yes, things are getting better, but like how do you navigate like all of those like levels of yourself, and like how are you able to like share all of that like with like the work that you're doing, you
Well,
know, like did you have to censor yourself
that
like
is so sweet, and you're the example here. I
no.
should absolutely be asking you this, but my answer is thank God for therapy.
Yeah.
I'm certainly getting more comfortable going against the grain.
Yeah.
I think I've always been a people person. I've always wanted to help others. I've always been emotionally motivated by my negative lived
Mhm.
experience, and that has pushed me to create communities that are better for folks like me. Um, but I don't know. I mean, I lost my train of thought. I'm
You're good.
sorry.
No, but I think like did you ever have to face like not being honest about who
Oh,
you
I
were
see, I
like
see, I see. Yes, yes,
within your
yes.
work?
You know, when I started my career, I wanted to be a fashion editor.
Yes.
And the way that you used to do it, kind of
Mhm.
as a blueprint, was did what everyone else did.
Yeah,
It was the devil wears Prada,
totally.
literally.
Yes.
And that was the blueprint. And so I did do that. I
Yeah.
did try to look smaller, be quieter, have the same ideas as
Mhm.
everyone else for the first little while.
Yeah.
And then I realized that that wasn't going to get me ahead, if only in a self-serving, career motivated way.
Yes.
Not even thinking about, I deserve to be myself
Yeah,
and da 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 da
totally.
da da. Like, just for ambition's sake, that
Yes.
wasn't going to get me ahead.
No.
So I started talking more about my experience being othered as a plus size person in
Mhm.
fashion. And I started to realize, oh, this is working.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got a print column. Okay, there's now a section on the website.
Yes.
Wow, there's a clothing collaboration coming in. Oh, they want me to go on Good Morning America. And that taught me
Mhm.
that my most full, most authentic life is going to come from leading with who I am,
Mhm.
and sharing that to find other people who it resonates with and
Yes.
build community.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's like, you know, when you're younger, you think that those things that like are like not, you know, socially acceptable at that time are going to be like your demise, but like
Yes.
honestly, they're like your superpower.
Yes, I say this all the time.
Yeah.
They are completely superpowers. I wish
Yes.
that I had leaned into everything that makes me different
Yes.
earlier.
Same.
I wouldn't take anything back, and I don't regret it.
No.
But I think that I would have arrived at this whole out, joyful,
Yes.
therapized person a lot sooner.
Totally. But it, you know, I think that's like the journey of our generation
Yeah.
is like, you know, like we were lucky enough that we could lean into these parts of ourselves to like discover who we are. And
Mhm.
like we had more permission to do that, but we still had to like relearn, I think, a lot of these like dialogues that we have and like
Mhm.
unpack like our internalized like queer phobia, our, you know, the internalized like fat phobia that we all
Mhm.
grew up on, you know, and then like you know, for you also having to deal with like the race part of it as
Mhm.
well as like, you know, being an Asian Canadian woman too, right? So there's just like there's so much unpacking and like
Well, it's such a
yeah.
good point, and, you're making me want to say that it'll be a lifelong journey for us.
Oh,
I don't think we'll
absolutely.
ever be, like, completely self-realized or self-aware,
No.
but I think that there is such beauty, and I would love to, like, listen to all of your experiences on this in sharing it as you go,
Mhm.
because
Yes.
social media is a highlight reel.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
And the messy middle is the good part, the helpful part, the
Yes.
relatable part, the part that's gonna make people cry and find their community and,
Mhm.
come out or love their fat body or what
Yes.
have you. And so it is important to be sharing it
Yeah.
while we're going through it. Of course, like, within our own boundaries, and we have
Yeah.
our own gut checks, but to me, those are the people that at least helped me when I was going through it, not the glossy finished
No,
product.
it's true. It's like, I don't know. It's like, you know, I was so afraid of vulnerability for such a long time, you know,
Mhm.
because I think like I'm just going to
Okay,
speak.
can I ask you,
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah, of course.
were you afraid or were you trained to just not go there? Or were you actively thinking like, that's too scary for me?
I really suffer from perfectionism.
Okay.
So like for me, being vulnerable was like giving people access into like the
Mm,
core part of who I was that they could like critique. And I was so afraid to do that. And like, when you go back on my social media, like everything was so perfect and like aesthetic. And like I was even afraid to smile because I didn't want people to see the spaces in my teeth, And it was just like, it's so silly. Like when I now, like through therapy, through the help of therapy, that I'm like, way more like I actually love myself and who I am. And so it's just like, yeah, like I think it's just like it's interesting how when we can reclaim our power over that like vulnerability can, I think, help so many people. And I think that's like what we were kind of saying earlier is like it's what's going to impact that next generation of people to like so that they can just like live an even more like closer to like authentic life without having to
I
deal with
also
these
think
things.
the former generation, because, we are helping change some minds that are pretty set in stone
Yes,
sometimes.
totally. Exactly. And it definitely is. It's challenging, I think, a lot
Mhm.
of those people too. So I love it. So how do you navigate now? I know you posted a video, like, sorry, I'm jumping, but like you posted a video the other day about like, how you deal with your like the negative comments like online. But
Oh my
like,
gosh, yes, I wanna talk
yeah,
about
let's
this with
let's get
you.
into that a little bit because I think it's just like, for both of us, we're putting a lot of ourselves out there. Like our partners are very public, our bodies are very public. Like how are you navigating these like negative comments and how do you not internalize it?
So, I have so much to say and chat with,
Yes.
you about this. Wow, where do I start? I think that I get my negative comments are mostly about my body and me
Mhm.
being too big, specifically as well for the institutions that I am now a part of, like
Mhm.
Sports Illustrated
Yes.
swimsuit or a certain TV show
Totally.
or magazine, yada yada yada. And the way that I got to a place that allows me to be unaffected by
Mhm.
body shaming comments
Yes.
is my body of work. It's the
Yeah.
past 10 years
Mm.
studying the beauty standard and reporting on it and creating content on it and making clothes for folks who don't fit
Yes.
in it, et cetera, hearing experiences of all those people, um, studying the beauty standard and realizing that it's made up.
Totally.
It's
Literally,
fake.
it is
It
fake.
changes every 3 years.
Yes.
It changes again every 10 years. It changes back
Yeah.
in the 2 years following that. So, just that pattern is proof that it's not objective. It's an
No.
impossible target, and we
Totally.
shouldn't chase it in the first place. And so when someone comments something rude about my body being
Mhm.
big or unattractive on my social media page, which sidebar is like, get the fuck off my page then if you
Totally.
don't
Why are
like
you here?
it. Um, I am unaffected because they don't know as much as I know
Mhm.
about the beauty standard or
Yes.
what it means to be a woman or how to live in a marginalized body.
Totally.
And therefore, I don't care about their opinion.
Yeah.
It's like having an argument about politics with someone who doesn't read the news.
Yeah,
You're
absolutely.
not going to listen to them.
No. It's so true.
I'm like getting them heated because
No,
I mean,
I
I could really, I'm gonna start commenting back soon to
I
these
know, I
people.
feel it. I find it really hard. Like, I go through waves where, like, I
Yeah.
do comment back and, like, I'm just like I don't know, I struggle with, like, wanting to defend myself, but then,
Yeah.
like, also realizing that these people are not open to learning, and so,
Yeah.
like, it's just, like, it's kind of like a waste of energy, but
100%.
it's
And
tough.
so the thing that I wanted to ask you, or I
Yes.
guess talk to you
Yeah.
about with regard to trolls, is I went on your page recently
Yes.
and I noticed that your, at least in my scrolling
Yeah, yeah.
history, top performing video with 2 million views
Ridiculous.
is a video, an amazing video about
Thanks.
sober curious recipes. But it presumably got so much attention from the algorithm because of the negative comments and conversations and hate
Yes.
happening on it. How do you feel about that?
It was really tough because like you, I'm very like unfazed by it, And it's like most of my viral videos are always because of these like hate
Oh,
comments,
okay.
which bothers me so much that it's like, I try to put joy out into the world and it's like it's a bit annoying that like the algorithm is only supporting like the backlash, of like these like hateful people. Um so it's just like, I think it's hard to navigate for me, when these viral videos just like keep going viral. Like sometimes like it'll be
Mm.
like a short period of time. That
Mhm.
video was going viral for 3 weeks and it was over the holidays, so I was on my phone all of the time to the point where I was like I asked like, Cityline to shut off the comments because it was just like it was starting to affect my mental health
Yeah.
and it wasn't even like I think the hard part was like they were attacking such something that was so personal to me, where it was like they don't know my journey of like becoming sober and like why and like what effects that's had on my life. And people basically like pointing out that I was a liar or that like sobriety is like bullshit and like I should just have a drink. And like, so it was like, it really like, it tested me in terms of like, trying to like, I'm like, oh, this normally doesn't bug me. And I am allowing it to, but I think it taught me a lesson of boundaries. And I got in my head being like, this video is going viral. And I didn't want it to stop because I was like, I want it to keep because it's gonna
Mm.
make my performance better. It's gonna like
Mhm.
reach more people. So like, do I compromise my own mental health for the hopes that like I'm gonna get more followers and I'm gonna get more exposure and more people are gonna see me talking about sobriety? Like it was like I was so conflicted.
That is so honest. Thank you for saying
Yeah.
that.
Oh. So, it's hard. And it's like, I think it's like, it's such a hard thing to navigate because it's like, I think as we mentioned earlier, it's like, I just feel like social media is only really letting negativity succeed. It feels.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is the exact thought I had when I looked at the grid and saw the
Yeah.
number on that post. And I just had this moment of realization that the algorithm is not distinguishing between comments that are negative and comments that are
Yes.
positive. It's just looking at number of comments.
Yes.
And people online, people in general, are more emotionally invested when it's a negative experience,
Exactly.
conversation, a fight, what have you. And so I'm still thinking about it. I'm thinking about it like as we're here, I'll be thinking
Mhm.
about it as I try to be more
Totally.
myself online. And I had a similar thought.
Yeah.
I thought, well, maybe if I say something more controversial or more
Yes.
thought provoking or something that people might not agree with as
Yes.
much, then I'll perform better online.
Totally.
And I don't want to be in that headspace.
Yes.
I don't. And it's built to make you compromise your mental health.
100%.
It's built to make you spend all your time online. It's
Yes.
built to make you fight with people who don't know your whole story, don't know all the information, don't fact check, subscribe to old ideals, and hate it when someone else succeeds who
Yes.
isn't doing any of that.
And, so we're pulling back right now, right?
Yeah.
We're looking at social media as a whole, and it's like, yeah, it's so hard. Like, how do you have a relationship with it?
Mhm.
And it's like, but it almost feels like the inevitable, right? Like it's like we can't succeed going forward without it. So like, what's the
In
solve?
my ideal world, I would have an AI that
Yes.
does my social for me, and I don't even look at it, and I move to
Right?
Muskoka with
Oh,
you
please.
and start a dog rescue. Yeah,
I'm so here for
that's
this.
my dream.
But like, maybe we'll get to that point. I don't know. But like, I don't know. It's tough. I think it's such a tough thing to navigate and like have peace with, I guess. But
Mm.
like, I think it's important that, we have these sort of conversations about it because I think people need to be aware.
I will say that one of my best performing reels
Yes.
recently was the first reels that I posted with my girlfriend.
Okay.
And so that was very heartening. And I was glad that it was support and love
Hmm.
and joy and not the hate that I sometimes get
Yes.
on body or Gen Z
Yes.
commentary or what have you.
And how did that make you feel though, after seeing something so positive happen?
It made me feel ready to be a little bit more of myself online.
Hmm.
Like you, I am a perfectionist.
Yes.
Um, that served me for a long time. And it's hard to undo the habits and unlearn the mental processes of something that did serve me so well.
Hmm.
Like I think all of my success is due to the fact that I work my ass
You
off. I
do.
am a perfectionist. I do as much as I can take on.
Hmm.
And I really try to change the world.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of in an era where I'm being a little more passive and I'm being a little more myself and
Hmm.
I'm less focused on the results like views and
Yes.
more focused on the content like my relationship
Yeah.
or my inner thoughts or my mental health journey. And so I don't know. I'm right in the middle of it. So I don't have the perfect
That's
answer.
okay. But I think it's important that you're recognizing all of
Yeah.
those pieces. But like what what made you decide to like publicly post a relationship?
I think that, I don't know. When did I wanna flip the same question on you, but what
Yeah.
made me decide to post my relationship? I'm just so happy.
Yes.
I'm so proud of
Mhm.
who I worked so hard to become, and I am in love, and it's an amazing experience, and a lot of people helped me on social when I was
Mhm.
discovering that I was
Yes.
gay and when I then decided to come out personally and then publicly, and so if it even helps a single person see some queer joy or have
Mhm.
a profile to ask a question to and get a real human answer, then I think it's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And also you're just as deserving as any other person to
Thanks.
be able to do that, you know? And I think that that's like it's a hard thing to like I think like get to that place, you know? Because I think a lot of the time as queer people, we try to put everyone else's like feelings before our own. And like
Yeah.
it's been something I've had to challenge myself of being like I am just as deserving as everyone else.
Yes.
So
That feels so true when you say it. I feel like I'm, like, talking to God.
no, I mean, I get Jesus
I
every now
know, it
and
must be the
again, so
Jesus hair.
blush.
I had my first ever photo recently removed.
Oh, no
It
way.
was a semi-nude photo, of which I
Oh, yeah,
have
I love that shot of you
plenty.
too.
Thank you.
Yes.
So did I. It was artful, it was
Yeah.
beautiful. It didn't show nipple. It was my girlfriend and I
Yes.
hugging to the side,
Mhm.
and our bodies were in shadow and our face was in the light,
Yes.
and it was my first ever photo that was removed by
Okay, but
Instagram.
what did they justify it as?
And I have plenty of almost nude photos of
Yeah.
myself online, and, I don't know, I can't help but think it has something to do with the fact
I
that
feel like
it's
probably
2
so many people
lesbians.
reported it. I feel like
Yeah.
that's usually,
I
like,
feel
what
like
happens.
because it was my girlfriend and I, people
Ugh,
or the algorithm, I don't know, removed it.
totally. Ah, that's so messed up. That makes me angry because that was such a beautiful shot.
Thanks. I guess I'll have to repost it.
Yeah, and just see. I'm like, "Ah, yeah, that's so weird." But I really think it comes down to it. Like, and that's like the new tactic I feel like that these like hate groups are all using is like they now have created like email chains of people to like target people and just like report their accounts. So like it gets
Isn't
taken
that
down.
embarrassing? Aren't you embarrassed?
Yeah.
That's
Ah.
embarrassing.
I don't
Get
understand how
a
people have this much
life.
energy spent on something that is not hurting
You
anyone.
know, I can't understand well, I think I can make up the kind of person that does that. I'll never understand insofar as the fact that I would never do something like that and spend
Yes.
my own energy to harm someone else.
Totally.
But I really think that these trolls see folks like you and I doing well, despite the fact that we don't subscribe to everything that they were told they
Yes.
have to be like in order to get
Yes.
rewarded in this world. And it makes them viscerally angry because of all of the effort, resentment, sacrifice that went into them abiding by those rules
Yes.
and us saying, fuck them.
Exactly.
And us reaping rewards. It does not,
Oh,
it makes the blood boil.
it triggers them so
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
that
That's a good
we can
word.
be authentic and
Yeah.
actually live our truth,
Yeah.
you know?
It's like all of the energy that they spent stuffing themselves down or not
Mhm.
going to do that thing they wanted to do or not looking how they would like to look or not having that relationship with that person or not having, whatever rewards
Mhm.
that they were promised with all that sacrifice makes them go blind with rage at
Yeah,
us.
it's so true. I completely agree with you. Why do you think that humans have such a hard
Oh
time
God.
celebrating joy? Because like, going back to like our point earlier about like I think people are so
Cortisol is
quick
addictive.
to go into negativity, but like I don't know. It's like yeah, I'm gonna leave it
Happy
there and then I'm gonna
people,
say
happy people. You know, I my life, myself,
mhm,
my community feels so full that I don't have the space in my mind or my gut
mhm,
to go be harmful towards anyone else.
yeah,
And I genuinely assume that the folks who are hateful to other people aren't full. Their lives aren't filled
Totally.
up with the things they want, with happiness, with joy, with reward, whatever it is. There's a void that, like old school bullies,
Yes.
gets a little bit full with the spike of adrenaline that comes with taking someone else down, if even for a second
It's
on
so
the
true.
internet.
Yeah, it's a rush.
I'm going to learn that rush when I start commenting back.
Yeah. I always like imagine I have like the long nails. And I'm like,
I could tell by your sound effect.
Yeah, I'm like, that's how I want to be.
I just pictured us with like the Britney Spears headsets
Yes.
or walkie-talkies from Toronto to New York going,
Yeah.
Did you see that one?
Yeah.
Okay, you got it. I'll get the next one. Over.
We need to do this. The new generation of Charlie's Angels. Yeah.
Do it.
Yes. For the video.
Love you.
We're making the Charlie's Angels pose for those listening. But I completely agree. But I also think that and this is just something like I'm really big in my moment of my life right now is like deconstructing like why I do things. And
tell me more about that.
Yeah, because I think it's really interesting. And I feel like I think you'll enjoy this. Like the decisions that I make and the actions that and like how I behave in this world, like those all stem from things that I've been taught. So I actually like when I think about like control and like, you know, the people who have created, you know, our society, I don't think that they actually want us to be happy. They make more money off us being miserable and striving to try to
more
like
money, more power, more
they want us to have more.
What they want. Yes,
exactly. So like, I think that it's so like in trying to unlearn that has been like really allowed me to let a lot more joy into my life and like express joy more. Because I think it's like, you know, that's why I think people also like are so negative on the internet. Cause it's like, when was the last time like you gave a compliment to someone or you wrote something nice to someone or you did something that was like not self-serving, you know? And it's like, I also have to challenge myself like that all of the time to think about it because it's like, you know, with some like, you know, we're both use social media as like, you know, a way to like make money. And I realized that like so many people are commenting so many nice things on my posts, but like I'm not commenting on other people's posts as often, you know? And it's like, I've been trying to like invest more time in like people who are commenting on my page, like I'm going on their page and trying to write something nice. And like, I didn't realize that not all people have the time to do that, but it's just like, I guess I'm just trying to find more ways in my life that I can like give joy to other people.
That is such a good example. And like something that's a tip, right? Like how do I create more joy in my life? Probably by spreading joy, probably by being in service to others, probably by connection.
Totally.
And something like that is that heady boiled down into as easy of a tip as go leave a nice comment on someone's page is like wonderful advice. The magazine editor in me is like furiously writing on a pencil.
Yeah. But I agree. It's just like, I don't know, like, I just think even people who are like maybe not negative, it's just like, it's something, it's like, I think we need to start putting more of that energy out there. And I think that's just like, I get it. We're as a society, we're coming out of like a really dark time with the pandemic and like, you know, there was so much like loss that happened, but I think it's like how we are going to like lift the vibration and like lift everyone back up again is like we need to change the energy that we're putting out into the world.
Sage this whole place.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly. Oh my gosh. Well, Lauren, I appreciate you so much coming on this podcast. I feel like there's so much more that we could talk about, but where can people find you?
People can find me at Miles Sexton #1 fan on Instagram. People can find me at LC Chan, as in Lauren C. Chan, on Instagram and TikTok. And yeah.
Oh, well, thank you.
Feel free, follow, stay in touch, DM, ask questions. I'm gonna follow your lead, and I'm gonna build community online.
Hey,
yeah,
it's what we need in this world.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you. Thank you for your vulnerability and honesty. And I'm so happy we got to do this.
Me too. Love you.